Hey, this is Gatorx, and welcome to a little bit of a test stream. I'm going to be trying this out. I had gotten the thought that, if I wanted to do any sort of discussion about the anime, maybe Pokemon anime, or just anything in general relating to that I just, have it here as a podcast, especially because looking in YouTube Studio stuff, they've added like new features for video podcasts here. But I figured maybe I would do it as a live stream because then you have that little more interactive feature or that little more interactive aspect. Again, I'm not going to be interacting with chat a whole lot until we get to like designated points where we'll talk about just thoughts on certain things. So here I did come up with a little cheesy name for this. Pocket Watch. Get it? It's a pun. But yeah, I'm going to be moving on a little more quicker because, again, I am doing this after we had one crash and hopefully everything should be fine now. But topics that I just want to discuss a little today. We've got Ash leaving the Pokemon anime, or at least, he had his last episode in the anime. We got Pokemon Horizons, a lot of news for that. That's coming up. Also some Digimon stuff that I just want to touch on because, I don't really have any other outlet to discuss that. But we'll go ahead and get into that. So Ash Ketchum. Oh, and I even forgot to mention like the whole like, oh my or format right for this is it's mostly gonna be a solo thing, right? Maybe I'll have guests on, but if I do, like I think more so guests might be like just real life friends if I'm able to get them in, or whoever else. We'll play things by ear. Just let me know what you all think, and if this format is something that ends up working out, we'll discuss that more so. So, Ash Ketchum, as we know, last episode of Pokemon Aim to be a Master, which was, that extra little series after Pokemon Journeys. Ash is sort of complete, right? Became world champion, and this extra little series, I hadn't been keeping up with it a whole lot. Like Journeys, just in general, I hadn't been keeping up with a whole lot, but this specific series, Aim to be a Master specifically, I think I would like to kind of watch or finish, right? And especially just with how the last episode went. Apparently is, Ash just kind of went off and it said something like, his journey would continue, all that stuff. So it wasn't like a definitive ending, which I don't think the series needed, because especially like, yeah, there were through lines throughout like each season or each series, and especially like, throughout the entire thing as a whole. But for the most part, it was always kind of, not always episodic, because obviously, it was still serialized. But for the most part, it did kind of have that feeling of like, each episode is a little story in the life of, like, in the world of Pokemon. And I think that still definitely maybe there could have been like better ways to kind of close the story and kind of end it. Because, when it was announced that, the last two things, right, we'd be getting like, oh, a little special episode, and oh, just kind of like a little series to kind of bring everything in together. And, this was like, what, 11 episodes, this thing? I think that, a little more could have been done with that. But overall, like, I know that for the most part, what was being posted on Friday, and not just Friday, but like the weekend in general, was kind of like, just a lot of memories, right, about the series and like Ash and Pikachu specifically. And I think that's still, really nice to get into. And I think that at this point, people had kind of, not that they've given up on like, oh, like a big finale, but I think that like overall it was still kind of nice. I'm still really interested of like what everyone's overall thoughts are, because I haven't, like, I had seen kind of like, I guess negative stuff about like the series, the Aim to be a Master in general, because it felt like some of the episodes of it were just like just things happening, rather than kind of taking time to bring everything together. Even though I think still a lot of stuff still did at least end up coming back in terms of like characters, Pokemon, if they didn't already like appear in Pokemon Journeys proper. So I'm really interested to see everyone else's thoughts, but like, and discuss more about it. But and honestly, it feels weird to say that like I'm not like super interested in it, because, well, for the most part, I think basically my thoughts on Twitter that I kind of summed up and said was that like, yeah, this is the last episode with Ash and Pikachu, but like in terms of me, like how I tend to enjoy Pokemon, like especially like the Pokemon anime, is just with this channel, through this channel. And like I said something like, this channel is basically just my personal love letter to Pokemon. It's just how I enjoy it. And eventually the goal with the channel is to have like a video about like every Pokemon, to have discussed basically every episode in some capacity of the anime. and just every little minor Pokemon thing here and there. And at the pace I'm going, I don't think ever going to reach that. Because like in terms of like, let's just say Ash, like I have definitely not watched every episode of the entire Pokemon anime. I will eventually someday. I'm kind of going through it at a decent-ish pace. But and in terms of like videos, right? Like I don't think I'm ever really gonna stop talking about like Ash and Pikachu specifically, right? Because they're still going to be appearing in whatever videos. Because if it's like, oh, I want to make a video about this specific episode or this specific arc, then obviously they're going to be there. So, and again, just with a a character and an icon that has been like around for so long, it's not like they're completely going away, right? Obviously Ash didn't die, didn't stop or didn't like full stop. Training Pokemon and didn't come out of the coma, right? Thankfully, finally, what coma theory? I think can we say that the Ash coma theory thing is what do you call it? Is just done. But at the same time, I think that because it came to the point where it's like it's either going to be like definitively every single episode is always going to be Ash and Pikachu, or they stop at like any point they stop it at, it's going to feel sad or maybe a little unsatisfying, right? Especially because like Pokemon, yeah, while it had like storylines going, it wasn't like as fully serialized, or it wasn't like, and again, the vague goal, right, of being a Pokemon master. And especially I think, basically like what, there's a line of dialogue in the last episode where he says like, becoming a Pokemon master is becoming friends with every Pokemon, which, with how many they're going to be making or how long, like it's so weird to think because like, it's either Ash is there for the entirety of Pokemon, however Pokemon it goes on, or he leaves and at any point. But I think like the final ending or like the kind of send off could have been done a little better. But that's I guess some of my quick thoughts about it, about this chapter ending. But let me see what we can do with. Let's see how does this YouTube live part work. I think I'm going to be opening it up to everyone watching and just kind of like ask a little question. Let's see, I know I need to be on the desktop part for this, excuse me, but I'm interested to see like everyone's kind of like final thoughts on it. Let's see, thoughts on this part. So again, this first little episode here being streamed here live on YouTube, we're going to be able to do stuff like this, so you can post a little response or just anything you want to say, and I think I'm going to be reading a few. And actually I realized I should have posed this thing here like when I started talking about the topic. We'll figure things out. Again, I'll take a little break to kind of mention like this is just something I decided to try out. I don't know how long I'll be keeping it up or how much I'll be able to do with it. I think I mentioned something like potentially, maybe have a little stream like this every 2 months, or not 2 months, every 2 weeks, or maybe at the end of every month, or just something like that. Okay, here. So yeah, in the chat, the YouTube, or it should be open. But we'll see how all of that goes. I don't think there was really much else I wanted to say about like, I think overall, like, let's say Pokemon Journeys as a series itself, right? It has its moments like ups and downs. And I think like it has its weakness. Like I need to like definitively finish watching it. I think I've watched maybe, I could look it up now exactly. I think I've watched of Pokemon Journeys. I have watched 61 episodes out of the 136. So little less than halfway through the entire thing. I just wasn't able to keep up with it. Just with, a lot of other aspects going on. And I think especially because, like, just me personally, it wasn't grabbing me in the way that I think that it really, really could have. But I think that, also just with how it was ending, there was kind of a thing of, like, it really had to, it really had to do a lot in order to, like, satisfyingly end this thing, especially, where it's something that goes through multiple writers and it's a series that appeals to so many people and has so many aspects to it. There was a lot that you would have to, try to bring in, or really, like, realistically, I'm like, what could they have done? Or what could they or should they have done? I think that just in the way of them saying that, yeah, the journey continues. And just that it was saying, oh, we're moving on. Ash's adventures are going to continue. He still has his friends, he still has his Pokemon, and potentially he's going to meet more Pokemon. I think I had brought it up, or I think I had suggested the idea of, if we get back to having more theatrical movies for Pokemon, then what if all the theatrical movies just take place in the alternate universe that we've been doing with, I Choose You and The Power of Us and Secrets of the Jungle. What if you just have movies continuing in that continuity, and then you can have the main series following, we're going to be following a new protagonist, and then eventually after that, but maybe another new protagonist, but just the movies are just kind of like a little through line where it's always Ash and Pikachu, just meeting new people, seeing new things. So there's that. Let's see. Could you take Ash in a fight? No Pokemon? No, Ash is too strong. You very much think so, but you think the reason they ended the series was to have Ash show up every now and then as a failsafe in popularity if popularity ever wanes. Since he's still journeying, he can have a cameo. That's a pretty good point still. Is that, obviously, like I said, he doesn't have a definitive end, so he could always just pop up wherever. And especially because I think from what we've seen of the upcoming series, it doesn't seem like it's a significant time jump, right? It's probably still taking place at the same point in time. So there's that. I think I'm going to be heading off or moving on to the next topic, because I think the next one is going to be a significant amount of time, because I have not said anything about Pokemon Horizons much publicly, aside from just curious little observations here and there. Let me hit that end, but let me open it up to a new thing about Pokemon Horizons. Sorry, I need a better setup here. Question mark. Okay, cool. We're gonna start that, but yeah, this is gonna be all right. So Pokemon Horizons. So the brand new series that's gonna be starting in 2 weeks. I think we're taking a little 2-week hiatus, and then we're moving on to Pokemon Horizons, or that's at least the title. And it's really curious too, especially because a lot of the announcements for this series that we've been seeing in English, or at least in regions outside of Japan, have been happening the same day as the announcements in Japanese. Because normally when it comes to news for the Pokemon anime, they keep the dub very separate from the sub, and they don't want you to, or they don't want any US fans knowing that things exist in the Japanese anime until they get officially subbed, months later, right? So it's just really curious that on the English Twitter account, on the English YouTube channel, they're also posting the same trailer, but with subtitles. And in a way, I guess it kind of relates to maybe a few other things. One particular thing was we saw Iono, right? The Iono trailer, or the little thing showing Iono with the animation thing, how she was speaking Japanese audio but had English subtitles. I don't think we're going to get to the point that there's going to be a simuldub released for the series, as in we get official English subtitles, legally distributed for the rest of the, for everywhere outside Japan, day and date. Because we would have seen some news of that by now, because I think it does start in 2 weeks, but it still is on. I think just the fact that they kind of got to the point where they know that, yes, definitely the entire world is going to know when Ash leaves the anime, or that when the news gets out, so they might as well at least make the announcement in English. Maybe they can kind of close the gap a little more between sub and dub. And I know that, not everybody really cares about the dub, but I think acknowledging the dub is important, because then that ties into everything for Pokemon's marketing, because the games release worldwide the same day nowadays, but the anime is still very much so yes, it's out in Japan, it's only in Japanese, we're going to keep it here, and then it falls onto fans to create subtitles and post them wherever, and so there's a lot less unity. It's important for other reasons, but point is, Pokemon Horizons, I don't think that we're going to be getting much of that, but some cool details at the very least. So this is what we got going on. A few details called Pokemon Horizons in English. Just recently, I think we got the announcement of, what it's going to be called in English. I think in Japan it's still basically just Pokemon. But we're going to be, Pokemon Horizons in English begins April 14th, I believe it was. I need to double check that. I might actually be wrong. But I do think it was something like we're taking a 2-week hiatus. The 14th? Oh, the 14th. Okay, the 14th is a Friday. Cool. And we got a lot of new characters. It's going to be following new characters. And that's also another interesting point I guess I want to make. So these are some of the character sheets or just images that were released on English Twitter accounts showing off these characters. And the big interesting thing is that these characters have the same names, or at least, the main characters, they have the same names in English and Japanese. Whereas, obviously, most characters are going to have their Japanese names and then they're going to have their English names, which I get a lot of times for Pokemon. Like, not necessarily that it's a holdover from the anime specifically, because even in the video games they did a lot of that. Like the video games, all the characters had different names. But a big thing is like Ash specifically, right? It's called Satoshi in Japanese, it's called Ash in English. But the big thing is that these characters first being introduced in Japanese, we kind of got a sense of their names being Liko and Roy. And then now these images being posted by the official English Twitter accounts actually have their names as Liko and Roy. So that's a big interesting thing. Again, I don't think that says anything about like we're going to be getting simul dubs or simul subs, right? Like obviously a simul dub I don't think is going to happen, but a simul sub is like not too much to ask, but I don't think it's going to happen still. But it's still curious that like, again, those gaps are closing. So Liko is going to be the protagonist. Roy is going to be another protagonist, but it's kind of mostly going to focus on Liko, it seems like. And then Roy is going to be there because they're both shown in pretty equal capacity. But it still is obviously, kind of clearly showing that Liko is the main protagonist. Interesting design, or like cool designs. I like them. I don't know if there's like a whole lot to say. Like it's very obviously still kind of similar-ish style. It's looking like to like Pokemon Journeys. I think, the shorts are a big thing. But the, just kind of general adventure stuff. So, there's a big thing about like the little hair clip that Liko has. Because, it resembles like the symbol on Ash's hat. But I guess some more details came out saying that she was attending an academy for the Pokemon, run by the Pokemon League itself, which of course is where Ash got his hat from. So there's that connection there. But great designs. They were, or they were both designed by Ken Sugimori, which is pretty cool. And I realize also now that you can actually see that Roy shirt. It does have that's unknown R, is it? I believe that's unknown R. But that makes sense. And yeah, you can definitely tell, like when you look at like their actual character sheets like this, it's like, yeah, those are Sugimori designs. So that's actually pretty cool. Some other characters we're going to be getting are Freed and Captain Pikachu. Freed is the captain who I guess is going to be helping them traveling at some points. Again, being called Horizons, being based off of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet in a sense, the whole like journey or looking for treasure that kind of like carries over. So I think we saw like Freed has an airship. I think he's got a pretty neat design. At one point, I think it was referred to a professor as well. So he does have this Pikachu and a Charizard. So there's your like connection to everything. Like, yeah, he has a Pikachu, he has a Charizard, very obviously. So he's going to be carrying those over. But I think this is kind of a neat idea with Captain Pikachu. I love it. He's so serious. But I think that's kind of also a nice way to have Pikachu still a part of the anime, while still doing something new, still obviously having new characters. I mean, like we have Detective Pikachu, so why not Captain Pikachu? So just doing that in different ways. So, but in a way that kind of makes me think like a little farther off. Maybe I shouldn't be thinking that far off, but when Pokemon Horizons eventually ends, I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know if this is going to be like a completely new series where like, Horizons gets like 1,000 episodes or gets, however long. I'm going to assume, this is a big assumption, but this is like long-term stuff for Pokemon Horizons. I'm going to assume that it gets 3 seasons, like most Pokemon series, 3 or 4 seasons, depending on how it is. But let's say 3. Gets 3 seasons, lasts for 3 years. And each season, like of 50 episodes, so that's like 150-ish episodes, give or take. And then after that, maybe then we move on to like another protagonist setting, stuff like that. Which, I don't know how likely that is. Again, that's all stuff that would happen like, 3 years in the future, if at all. But then would you do something where it's like, you have a different kind of Pikachu? They're like, the fact that obviously this is an Ash's Pikachu, right? But it's still a Pikachu. It still looks like Pikachu still has the iconography, but, remixes it in a bit of a different way. So you have all of that potential. I'm looking forward to Captain Pikachu stuff. These characters, I think they're pretty cool. I think in one of the posters too, it does show like they have an airship, which is something I was thinking. And, also interesting too, like, again, these are like the English promotional images. You have a lot of the sky stuff, which is very, very, what's the phrase? It's what they're using on a lot of the promotional stuff for Pokemon Horizons. So I think that's kind of neat. Then we got some additional characters that we're going to be seeing. We got Orla, Murdoch, Molly, and Ludlow. Orla has a Metagross, Murdoch has a Rockruff, Molly has a Chansey, and Ludlow, no Pokemon revealed as of yet. So I think this is also another interesting thing, is that we're seeing all these characters being introduced, and we're seeing their partner Pokemon, but their partner Pokemon aren't Paldean Pokemon. Obviously, we see a few here and there, but not everybody needs to have a Paldean Pokemon as their partner Pokemon in the series, because I don't even think we know if particularly, like, if specifically, like, this series takes place in Paldea, especially because, like, what the academy that Liko is going to be attending isn't Uva or Naranja Academy. It's a completely different one. But these are, I need to double check, are these Pokemon, do these even appear in Paldea? I don't know the Paldean Pokedex. But these are kind of neat. I wonder what capacity exactly they're going to be appearing in. So Orla looks like a worker type, and obviously she has a steel Pokemon. It's got probably a coat tied around her waist. So that's an interesting character. Murdoch seems a lot more, Murdoch almost seems like his clothing could fit in with Alola, because he does have an Alolan Pokemon. Molly, I think, looks pretty straightforward. She seems like a trainer. That's pretty typical trainer attire, though she has a Chansey. So that's the interesting thing. And Ludlow he's an old man. So good character designs that they're showing off. Pretty neat, pretty interesting. I think that is the main thing, is that, like, yeah, there have Pokemon that are not Paldeans. So that really makes me think, what could they be cooking? What could they be planning? But we see more also. The big one is Amethio. I think this is how the name is supposed to be pronounced, Amethio, who has a Ceruledge. And so this seems like this is going to be like the main rival character of the series. I think it's pretty neat. I think it's a cool design, and being able to see Ceruledge. So, like, just the fact that, like, Ceruledge was very, very well liked when it was first announced, when it was first revealed. It makes sense to have that as the Pokemon used by this character. I think they're working with, like, a mysterious group of explorers. I think that's what it had said. But I think that is neat. That's basically all that was shown on the English account. Still, there are other things. Interesting, I didn't see these character breakdowns, like, shown on anything else. But these, I think they were with that group, the Explorers, or they seem like kind of antagonist-ish characters. I don't have their names. But also interesting, they have some Kanto Pokemon. Again, not Paldean. And then we got a funny little mascot character here who is basically a VTuber. I think, though, there was another piece of information that says that this character has a Quaxley. So there's a lot going on with this series. I think that it is particularly interesting that, yeah, we're getting so much information about this. And again, before Pokemon Aim to Be Master even came out, we got the trailer for this, which just, showed some images. We got a lot of other interesting details here. Oh shoot, I thought that was something up there. That's just the airship in the poster. But I think that it's going to be interesting diving into this, because we have, like, a brand new series, and it's, like, starting from the beginning. Because, as much as, like, the Pokemon anime is pretty easy for anyone to jump into, it's still, like, 1,000 episodes, right? Because, if you happen to watch anything of, like, Journeys, right, and there's some callback to some other series that, say, you didn't happen to see, you'll still be able to follow things. But I think the fact that Horizons has a lot to do. It does have to build up. It has to introduce this new character, or not just one new character. It has to introduce the new protagonist and all these other characters, a different setting. Probably not too different of a format, but it is very much of, like, this is going to be a good point for people to jump into things. So it's interesting, like, just seeing them, because, yeah, we really don't see this a whole lot. Like, every time, a new series would start, yeah, sure, it would be like, here's Ash's outfit for the series, here's some of the supporting characters, and of course, here are some of the new Pokemon from the new games that are going to be appearing in the series. But there was always that sense of familiarity, and that, like, okay, Ash is going to be our focal point of the series, and these are the characters he's going to meet. Again, I don't think a whole lot is going to change. I think it's still obviously going to be Pokemon, but there's that. So let me see what, again, we're using the YouTube Q&A feature with this, so let's see what some of your thoughts are. Hi Gator, do I collect and play the TCG? Yes, I do. They'll be streamed on Friday. Are you nervous about the fact that this series also confirmed to be a world tour like Journeys? Oh, okay. Yeah, this means there'll be a focus on Paldea's characters, world building. Less focus on Paldea's world building characters. Yeah, I guess I kind of expected that here. I think what happened here? Sorry, I'm still getting used to YouTube's Q&A feature. But if I select this question, does it show up? Oh, it shows up there for everyone else in the chat. Okay. So I think that, well, again, maybe, okay, with Journeys particularly, I think, this is a minor nitpick for Journeys, but there was always the fact that, like, okay, he was stationed in Kanto, but he didn't interact with a lot of the Kanto characters too soon. That's minor nitpick. I don't think that, like, has a huge bearing on the plot, but I think that it could, well, again, depending on the themes they're going to have. Again, it's going to be a different format from, like, the typical series. But I think that, am I worried? Would I say I'm worried about it? Because we haven't had a typical, like, start here at this point in the region and travel through the entire region since Gen 6, since X and Y. Because, 7 was Alola, where they did, they had like one place they stayed at the school, but then they, traveled to different islands. And then Journeys was world hopping through the world. That's an interesting question. I don't know if I would say I'm worried. I think that, again, just the fact that we're starting completely new, I will be open to it. I'll see what happens. I'll save my judgment for, like, until that actually happens. Although I guess I would say that, like, it would kind of be nice if we went back to the whole, like, yeah, we start at this point in this region, travel throughout it. But it has potential for, again, if it handles the concept better, I guess, in Journeys, there's that. Let's see. Select this question. Okay. Is the Legend Ball has a connection to the GS Ball? I do not know, because there is a little special Pokeball, right, that we see. I don't know what to think of that. All right. Next one. Do I think any part of the anime will be wokeified to make people that won't even watch the anime happy? I have no worries about that. Pokemon, I don't really think does that. And not that that's a bad thing. I'm just like, Pokemon's going to be Pokemon. Select this question. Do I think there will be a Team Rocket spin-off show? I don't think there'll be, like, spin-off shows of Pokemon, particularly, especially because I think that there's already, I feel like in terms of, like, the older characters, I don't think they'd be too quick to bring them back, except for Ash. Again, I think that was kind of brought up. This question. Sorry if you already answered, but how much are you missing Ash? Final episode hit you harder than expected. Gonna be weird going on a new journey without him and Pikachu. Yeah, I think I kind of said that. Like, I'm obvious. I was kind of shaken up. I'm like, well, sure. As I was writing my tweet, I was kind of getting a little choked up, but I don't, it feels weird. I was going to say I don't care, but, like, obviously I care, but it's just that I think I'm kind of at the point where it's like, I'm already, like, going back and watching stuff, because right now, I've never watched Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. I'm watching through it right now. I'm at, like, episode 159 of Diamond and Pearl, and it's really cool. But even, if I'm not watching, like, an older series for the first time, I can always just go back. Like, all of the episodes are still there, and I already kind of have like, me personally, I'm in the phase of my life right now where I'm like, I'm just going back and watching older stuff, or that either I missed out on older stuff, or I'm watching stuff that, either older stuff that I missed out on or older stuff that I loved. So, and on top of that, I wasn't really keeping up so much with Pokemon Journeys, even though I do, eventually I'll get the chance to watch the whole thing. But there's already all that legacy, and yeah, it's really sad, but I know that, like, Ash and Pikachu are just always just going to be a part of Pokemon. They're, like, the DNA is just always going to be there in anything Pokemon, like, going in the future. And, I'm sure, like, maybe we'll see them, like, maybe once or twice. I don't know how soon or how much, but, like, just the opportunity to bring them back in some form is always there. And, there's that. So, well, what exactly was the question? Yeah, it hasn't really hit me yet. It hit me a bit, obviously, but I'm mostly just optimistic, I guess, in general. Like, just, I guess, as a person. This question. Also, the villain-looking pair are named Jito and Zur, Jito, Zur, and Konya. Oh, Zirconia. Oh, okay. Being the pun. Oh, okay, Zur and Konya, Zirconia. Oh, okay, I see. That's kind of interesting. This question, what is it? Says, I don't think so. The other being a similar concept. I think that's basically all the question, or at least all the specific questions with the the Q&A feature on YouTube. So I think have we? Let me see. What are my kind of final thoughts? I guess on Pokemon Horizons. I'm interested. I think the big thing is that I'm gonna give it. I don't know how many. I'm gonna give it like 12 episodes or so. Not that like, that's going to be 12 episodes and I'll definitively stop. Again, if I continue this live stream series or podcast series, depending on what it is, I might still bring it up. But I think I'll try and keep up with it. I'll watch the first episode and so on and so on. But I think I'm going to maybe give it that long to just kind of see where it goes. Because obviously I think there are, kind of some questions that they're putting out in the trailers so far that they want you to keep in mind, that they want you to think about in terms of how the story is going to how the story is going to be going forward. So what was the question? Oh, final thoughts. That's what I was doing. Final thoughts about Pokemon Horizons. So we'll see how it goes. I'm optimistic. And again, even if it is let's say even if it's at the same level as Pokemon Journeys, and not saying Pokemon Journeys is bad, but I think that typically it was just relatively lower received by most people than say previous series. But let's say it is at that same level. I'm still gonna watch it because just in general, I want to make sure I watch everything Pokemon anime ever. Like I said, I'll be going back to Journeys and watching that. And especially, I think just the fact that there's a chance for a fresh start. So that'll be something just for me to try to get to. Let me see this question here. Let's see. It's been missing in the anime since Sun and Moon. Do you think we'll finally see the return of next gen Pokemon cameos early? Okay, yeah, technically Unova was the last time outside the movies that we've seen it. I don't know. I think that's a long time off, obviously, because that's going to be next generation. And we kind of basically just started Generation 9. So I'd like to see it happen, though, because it's always cool. There's this one. Do I agree with the decision to leave Ash? I think I mentioned something did I disconnect? Oh no, I did. There, I'm back. I'm back. Okay, cool. I think I just cut off. The question I was discussing was, do I agree with the decision to leave Ash? Yeah, I think I was saying basically, yeah, it's either you go on forever and Ash is there forever for the entirety of Pokemon, or you stop it at any point. Even if you stopped at Gen 5, it wouldn't feel satisfying. You stopped at Gen 6, even if Gen 6 was really good, the XYZ anime, that was really good. But even if you stop it at that point, it's still not going to feel right. It depends. It was gonna be I guess a bittersweet thing either way. I'm not gonna feature this question, but I see what I eat Urban Mystica if possible. Yes, I would. Do I think this is going to be the cast moving forward, or will there still be a new cast every generation? I think that is an interesting question, because I don't know, because I feel like this would be I guess a good time. It's really going to depend. Like I said, we're going to have 3 years. Let's give this 3 years. Yeah, 3 years of Pokemon Horizons. And by the end of that, will we be attached enough to Liko and Roy to want to see them continue their journey? But again, I think it was kind of a world hopping kind of series. So I feel like it would work. That would work specifically for Scarlet and Violet themed anime, because Scarlet and Violet had the whole theme of finding your treasure. So if this is we're going here again, we have Freed in the airship. He's going to be giving them rides everywhere. If it is going to be an adventuring thing, then I can definitely see that that works for Scarlet and Violet. So I guess in that sense, I kind of think that we'll have 3-4 years maybe of Pokemon Horizons. Then we'll move on to a new protagonist. And I think that's maybe kind of what they want to stick to. Let's see. What was the next question? Here, this one. It says, what Easter eggs of cameos do I wish to see in the new series? Okay. I want to see the new series open with Liko watching the battle between Ash and Leon. Ooh, that'd be pretty cool. And I'm going to include this with someone else's question I see later down here that says, do I think the game... Wait, do I think the game cast will show up like anyone from the games? That is what I would want to see, for sure. I want to see I want to see some of the characters from Scarlet and Violet appear. But I guess, this kind of is again, because this isn't necessarily the Scarlet and Violet specifically anime, but it's still going to be the Gen 9 anime, because obviously we have the starters, we have Ceruledge, and look, we even see Pommy in the little poster here. I think that it's going to be we're going to get the chance to see some of these characters appear, and I would really like to see them all. But even in Journeys, we didn't see every character appear in the main series anime. Every gym leader. We saw a few of them, or every character even. But we saw a good amount of them still. So I'd still like to see them from there. Let's see. But in terms of like Easter eggs, I guess, yeah, basically that. And it would be interesting, I agree. It would be interesting if we see any kind of acknowledgement of Ash at all. Let me see. But if I were in charge of the anime, would I leave Ash? I would have, but I would need a lot of time to think about when to do that. And sorry, I didn't feature that question. Let's put this one here. It says, considering Scarlet Violet's Challenge Other Schools DLC, maybe Horizons will have them visit Naranja and Uvo. I think that's definitely a valid idea, valid idea. I think that's a great idea, because then, it also allows you to bring in the other characters, and then, maybe, I doubt we're going to see like an adaptation of the game protagonists in the anime, especially because we didn't see that in the main series for Victor and Gloria, but that'd be cool. Definitely, I think that's a good-ish way. And that's, again, I think they'll be visiting, like okay. For sure, they're going to be stopping at Paldea at some point, so it'd be a huge missed opportunity to not feature the school, because the school is such a huge central thing. What's this question? What if it turns out Liko has powers? If I remember correctly, only two main characters in the Pokemon franchise have powers, that of Ash and Yellow. That'd be interesting. I don't know how much they'll dive into that, but I think definitely just the fact that, like, okay, yeah, Ash had Aura. I think that's kind of cool. But I don't know. I think that... again, Ash is not just has aura, but he has super strength basically. So I that one's like, not kind of, but I doubt they do that. What's your opinion on the theory of Terapagos being smaller parts of a bigger third legendary? Not anime specific, but I don't know what to think of Terapagos. I don't know. But let's see, how long? We've been doing 40 minutes. I think that's mostly everything I wanted to say about Pokemon Horizons. So I think we're gonna be moving on. There's not much else, but overall, I'm interested for Pokemon Horizons. And again, if this does end up being something that I continue say on the channel, or maybe I pre-record it and maybe post it somewhere but link it here. I don't know exactly what I'll be doing with the series. Especially if you're listening to this as a VOD, leave your suggestions in the comments. And if you're watching this live, come back to it after it's a VOD and leave it in the comments. Or maybe I'll make a community post about it. But I think that's basically all I had to say about Pokemon Horizons, is that, like, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting. I'm cautiously optimistic. More optimistic than cautious, right? So I'm going to be moving on mostly. The next topics I wanted to discuss were not Pokemon, but they were anime. And I wanted to, like, do this because obviously, this isn't like a formal review series of the Pokemon anime. And again, if this does continue, if I continue doing this, I think obviously, I think for sure I would do things like this, or like a podcast like this, or like a stream like this for at least the first 10 episodes, right? 10 episodes of the series to kind of like make sure we keep going with it. But obviously I'm going to be using this as like just kind of like a catch-all general thing to discuss some other anime, as you saw in the topics presented at the beginning of the thing. So Digimon Ghost Game had its finale this weekend, and it's real interesting. So I need to make a video about this, honestly, but within the past month or so, I just speedrun became a Digimon fan. If I'm being honest, I speed ran becoming a Digimon fan. I did so much. And one of those things was I binged the entirety of Digimon Ghost Game, which was only like 60 something episodes, which is still a lot, but I still binged the entire thing. So having done that, my experience of this series is very different from everyone else's, because, I'd seen maybe a little talk here and there about it. For one thing, the series as a whole was very much more episodic rather than serialized compared to other series. Just recently, after I binged Ghost Game, I watched all of Digimon Adventure, the first series, and that one is very, very much serialized, much more so than Ghost Game was. Ghost Game is a lot more episodic, but it was still one of those series that kind of wanted to have its cake and eat it too, where it's like, yeah, it's mostly episodic, but we have like things tying into like a more of an ongoing plot. And I think they kind of did fumble that at the end. The second to last episode was great, but the last episode was very, very exposition heavy, just kind of like really trying to wrap everything up. And I don't think it did that particularly well. I would still 100% like honestly recommend it, because there's a lot going for it. The animation's still great. I think episode to episode is still really great. It's a fun series to watch. The designs for a lot of the Digimon, I love them. Because, and the themes are great, because obviously, me as I'm gonna play this card. Me as a writer, there's a lot more to a series than just plot. And I think a lot of the times people will see plot as like the be all end all thing of a series being good. And especially with this one, how it was kind of, first few episodes, it did feel like it was building to something, but then I think it kind of became more clear that it's like, okay, it's more episodic. I think that, yeah, definitively the last episode, aside from finishing the final fight was great, but then the last bit of the episode just kind of like the episode, sorry, I got mail, but the episode itself was like basically the last 20-ish, no, not 20-ish, the last 15-ish minutes of the episode were basically just speed running exposition, saying, hey, this is why this happened, this is why this happened, this thing, and that was not good. The final fight, great. They answered a lot. They at least answered questions, not very well, but overall, I'll say, like, yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the series as a whole. But I guess, we'll be moving on from Ghost Game. So that quick thoughts on that. The other big Digimon news we got, anime stuff, is more stuff for Pokemon Adventure 02 The Beginning. Or is it 02 or 02? I'm actually going through the Adventure 02 anime now because, yeah, like I said, this will eventually be a full video where I just discuss my experience getting into Digimon as a Pokemon fan. So let me know if that's something you'd like to see or if you're super into it. But, you know what? Here, let me actually just add a Q&A thing here really quick for Digimon. But basically, I think I will be putting out a video eventually about like my experience, Pokemon fan getting into Digimon. So right now I am watching Digimon Adventure 02. And so we got some cool little information. So there is going to be a movie for the series, and this one is taking place after Last Evolution. So it's when basically all the characters are grown up. They still have their Digimon, and there's going to be neat stuff. We knew about this movie a few months ago, apparently. Well, not apparently, obviously, right? We knew about this movie a few months ago, but more recently there was kind of a 30-second trailer put out for it, and more details on some of the characters. So there's this poster here, Digimon 02 The Beginning. Again, follows the cast from Adventure 02. It's set after Last Evolution, and it has a release date in Japan for October 27th. When we'll be getting it here in the US, we'll probably end up getting it in like 2024, early 2024. Or, if you happen to be in Japan on the 27th, you can watch it there. But it's pretty interesting because I guess we're going to be following or going to be looking into one of the characters who was one of the first people to partner with a Digimon. And just having, the Adventure 02 cast being the ones to follow that is pretty neat. And we got a look at their updated designs, so that's kind of neat. Or at least, we had seen them all obviously in Last Evolution, but these are them post Last Evolution. So there's kind of neat. We got Davis, Ken, Jolie. Of course, those are their English names. Actually, Ken has the same name, I think. And then we got Cody, TK, and Kari. So it's pretty nice. I'm going to be interested in this. I'm going to be like excited for it. I forgot to put something else in here, but we've got like new info or like other stuff coming out for Digimon later, which I guess That'll be the next thing, because like we're not getting an anime next for Digimon. We'll discuss that when we get there, honestly. But that'll probably be the next stream. So if anything, I think like if I continue these streams, if I keep doing it again, if everyone likes it and wants me to continue this series, maybe as a stream or a pre-recorded thing, we'll discuss that later. Then I think it basically will be, all right, first we'll discuss a Pokemon episode, then we'll discuss the Digimon chapter. But I'm excited for this. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice, because especially I think by the time we finally get this movie, I will have maybe just experienced just about everything. But I guess that's just about everything I wanted to mention. I realized I went this. Here, let me end this. Sorry, but I think that's basically all I wanted to do. It was kind of a quick. Well, then again, we did have like the little hiccup at the beginning, which I think cut into time, but pretty set for the most part. That's basically just what I want to do. I mentioned everything, right? So I guess in terms of just other thoughts that I want to do for this, again, I think I probably would want to do more stuff like this, but I think that I like the idea of it being kind of more of a solo thing, like solo podcast kind of thing. I don't know if I would have guessed. If I did, maybe it would just be like actual friend, like more of my real life friends. If I can convince them to check out the first episode or so of Pokemon Horizons, get some of their thoughts, maybe we can do that. But otherwise, I think that this kind of works out as a solo thing, especially like if it is streamed. And if I get a little more used to this format, then we can continue doing that. And if I get a little better at the utilizing the Q&A feature here on the YouTube live stream chat, I don't think there was much else I wanted to address in terms of like format for how I want to run this, but I think that this works out as like a good little test episode. In terms of when it would happen, I think potentially it would still be Mondays, because today is Monday, the time I'm doing this. And again, there was the whole question of whether it should be something like pre-recorded or streamed, but I think the stream feature just works with me being by myself if this continues, and especially because then I can read chat questions in the way that I did through this. And I think that and doing it on here as a stream, because I prefer stream stuff, because rather than like uploading an hour long video thing that was supposed to, it's like, oh, this is a podcast, right? Here's the video of it. I think that if you're going to be doing a video podcast thing, it's either, okay, you make a completely new channel for it and that's the only thing you upload there. But I think that stream also works. It's more stuff. Again, this is like I'm testing things out. I'm trying to get the hang of things. Not get the hang of things, but I'm trying to like just kind of figure out what potentially works. But otherwise, I think that this was a pretty successful first run. So I think that we're going to be heading off here. I think that's literally just what I wanted to say. And again, I think the main thing is that I wanted to have just, some extra little outlet to discuss, right? The Pokemon anime or Digimon, because I definitely am going to be watching Horizons. At least the first 10, 12 episodes, I think, is what I established. I'm probably still going to watch beyond that, but we'll see how everything goes. Mostly just because like I want to try and ramp up content. Kind of want to try and do a little more or try different things. So there's no guarantee that this will continue. There's no real guarantee that I'll do something like this for episode 1. Hopefully I will. And I don't know if it'll be completely weekly, but again, that is all determined by like, just let me know what you think. Again, if you're listening to this as a VOD, watching this as a VOD, thank you very much for doing so. And again, I probably will make a community post just asking things, asking stuff like that. But for the most part, I think I'm basically done. My closing thoughts are basically all set, and I think I'm going to be heading off. And probably in the future, this will be like hour long videos. And because I guess that's kind of all I can do when I'm like only talking and not playing a video game. Video games, I can easily go for like 3 hours. Only talking, I think I got like a max of 1 hour in me. And future podcast plans, I do kind of maybe want to, we'll keep all that open because I've been in talks with some people, so we'll see what comes through that. But anyway, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you everyone for listening. Again, please, likes and comments would be so appreciated to let me know what I should do and where I should go from here. But anyway, this has been Gatorax, and I'll catch you all later.